Dr. Emily Watson had never held a weapon in her life. At 43, she was a xenobiologist, specializing in peaceful first contact protocols, a woman who had dedicated her career to building bridges between species rather than burning them. When the Corvaxi Empire invaded Earth, she was exactly where you'd expect to find her, in a refugee camp, treating wounded civilians with medical supplies scrounged from the ruins. The Corvaxi death squads found her in the medical tent. This one, snarled Commander Zek Thor, pointing a clawed appendage at Emily as she knelt beside a dying child. The records indicate she's some kind of scientist. Emily looked up, her hands still pressed against the child's wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. "I'm a doctor. Please, let me finish." The energy blast that should have killed her instead struck the portable medical scanner she wore on her chest. The device exploded in a shower of sparks and exotic radiation, the blast throwing Emily backward into the camp's improvised laboratory, where her research samples were stored. She should have died. The Corvaxi energy weapons were designed to be instantly lethal, but the scanner's destruction had released a burst of quantum energy that interfaced with something in Emily's research samples of an unusual organism she'd discovered in the ruins of an alien probe that had crashed on Earth decades earlier. The organism was called Specimen X7 in her notes. She'd been studying it for years, trying to understand its unique ability to adapt and evolve in real time when exposed to different energy signatures. It was harmless, fascinating from a scientific perspective, but biologically inert. Until it merged with Emily's dying cells. The Corvaxi soldiers found her body 3 hours later and declared her eliminated. They moved on to massacre the rest of the refugee camp, confident that they'd removed another piece of human resistance. They were wrong. Emily Watson died in that medical tent. What emerged from the wreckage 48 hours later was something else entirely. The first Corvaxi patrol to encounter her reported a human female wandering the ruins, seemingly disoriented and harmless. When they moved to capture her for interrogation, she simply looked at them. The patrol never reported back. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a colleague from Emily's university days, was the first human to see what Emily had become. Sarah had been hiding in the underground bunkers when she received a transmission on the emergency medical frequency. "Sarah, it's Emily. I'm different now. I need you to see this." When Sarah emerged from the bunkers, she found Emily standing in the middle of what had been a Corvaxi command post. The alien soldiers were still there, but they weren't moving. They weren't dead. Either they were standing perfectly still, their eyes reflecting the same strange luminescence that now emanated from Emily's. "What happened to them?" Sarah whispered. "They tried to kill me," Emily replied, her voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before. "The organism I was studying. It didn't just merge with my cells. It gave me the ability to interface directly with any biological neural network." Emily gestured to the motionless Corvaxi soldiers. "I can rewrite their programming, turn their aggression off, make them forget how to fight. Or," her expression hardened, "make them turn their weapons on their own kind." Sarah stared in horror and fascination. "Emily, you're talking about mind control." "I'm talking about evolution," Emily corrected. "The Corvaxi made a mistake. They tried to execute someone whose entire career was built on understanding alien biology. Someone who had access to an organism that could adapt to any biological system. Over the following weeks, reports began filtering through the resistance networks. Entire Corvaxi garrisons were turning on each other. Command ships were going dark, their crews found standing motionless at their posts. The aliens' coordinated invasion was falling apart as their own soldiers became unreliable. The Corvaxi High Command initially blamed equipment failures or human bioweapons. It took them 3 months to realize that their forces weren't being attacked, they were being converted. General Marcus Kane, leader of the human resistance, met with Emily in what had once been Washington, D.C. The meeting took place in the ruins of the Lincoln Memorial, surrounded by a dozen Corvaxi soldiers, who now served as Emily's personal guard. "This isn't what we wanted," Kane said, watching the alien soldiers with obvious unease. "When we asked for help fighting the invasion, we didn't expect. You didn't expect your weakest civilian to become your most effective weapon." Emily finished. "Neither did I, Marcus. But here we are." She walked among the Corvaxi soldiers, who stood at perfect attention. "They tried to kill me because I looked harmless. A doctor, a scientist, someone who preferred test tubes to assault rifles. They thought I represented everything weak about humanity." Emily stopped in front of Kane, and for a moment he could see traces of the woman she'd been: kind, dedicated, humane. Then the moment passed, and something far more dangerous looked back at him. "But they forgot something important about human scientists, Marcus. We don't just study things. We figure out how to use them." The final Corvaxi stronghold fell 6 weeks later. Not to human weapons or tactics, but to their own troops, who turned their guns on their commanders and opened the blast doors for human forces. The war that should have lasted years ended in months, not through superior firepower, but through the complete subversion of the enemy's biological command structure. Emily Watson, the xenobiologist who had never held a weapon, had become humanity's first biological warfare specialist, not by choice, but by necessity. In the aftermath, as the last Corvaxi ships fled Earth's system, Emily stood in her new laboratory, a converted alien command ship crewed by former enemies who now served her without question. Sarah found her there, staring at samples of her own transformed cells. "Any regrets?" Sarah asked. Emily was quiet for a long moment. "They wanted to kill me because I was weak. Because I represented everything they thought was inferior about humanity." She looked up from her microscope. "Now they run from me because I represent something they never anticipated." "Which is?" Emily smiled, and the expression was equal parts human compassion and alien adaptation. "The possibility that our greatest weakness might also be our greatest strength. They tried to execute a healer and created a weapon. They tried to eliminate our most peaceful citizen and discovered that sometimes the most dangerous humans are the ones who understand exactly how life works." The Corvaxi Empire added Earth to their list of forbidden worlds. In their military databases, they classified humans as a Class X biological hazard, with a simple notation: species capable of weaponizing their own compassion. Dr. Emily Watson had been Earth's weakest defender. She had become humanity's most terrifying weapon.